concept of virtual fence is quite simple. Manage livestock grazing without physical fences. Although it was first developed back in the 1980s, it is only recently that virtual fence has become practical to use on working ranches. Today, virtual fence is developing at a rapid pace, and there are a range of different systems available on the market. This series features early adopters of the technology from around the U.S. and uses their lived experience as a basis to provide viewers with a structured approach to adopting and using virtual fence.
Virtual fence technology is not going to take the role of a rangeland manager.
Using these technologies, that doesn't take the animal husbandry out of it. That doesn't take the ranch management out of it. It's a tool to help you do everything better.
It doesn't tell you how to graze your pasture, it's just allowing you to be very flexible in how you do it.
I'll go this way. Virtual fence is only as good as the operator. It takes a lot of work.
As with anything, when you incorporate this technology into your ranch management or grazing management plan, there has to be an objective and it has to be economical. It's going to have to benefit you in the long term.
You know, following up with monitoring so that you know that you actually are accomplishing the goals that you're setting out.
And then you've just got to do some adaptive management.
A lot of it's been trial and error. Just trial and error. This works, this doesn't.
Not necessarily like, hey, this doesn't work. It's like, no, we just did it wrong.
Is it working? Does it work for you? That's what you have to evaluate on your operation.
There needs to be some form of determining success. What is success?
It's always important to, one, set goals for whatever your objective is. And so here's my management objective. What are my goals I'm trying to achieve? And whether that's increasing average daily gain on my calves or weaning weight or increasing, western wheatgrass out here. It's always important to know what your goal is because that's going to decide what metrics do I need to measure in order to ascertain whether I'm meeting my goal.
If you're using virtual fencing, you've got an overall goal. You're trying to increase forage production. You're trying to take better care of your ecosystems. You're trying to provide more cover for wildlife. Monitor what you're doing. Have a set of goals and monitor if you're achieving them.
We've taken it upon ourselves to be really diligent about, understanding what our baseline would be without them.
Hopefully, if you're already grazing livestock, you've got monitoring plots. You've got a system in place to see that you're in an upward trend or at least not in a declining trend.
What's your current state and what direction you're headed? Yeah, the classic, business line, you can't manage what you don't measure.
And so are we getting containment inside of the paddocks that we're designing such that we're seeing those forage production benefits?
You could look at cattle locations with the GPS collars, but more importantly, are you out there assessing landscape appearance, for example? Is carrying capacity increasing over time? Or are you able to graze a longer period of time?
Right, these aren't hard things to study, but they're things you gotta study.
No matter what management tool you're using, you need to have some measure of success.
And we're doing in our operation kind of on the the cutting edge of this whole thing, but I would encourage anyone who's using this technology, you should be doing that. You should be always in the back of your mind saying, okay, is this the right alternative for me? Whether you're running 50 cows, whether you're running 5,000, doesn't really matter. Everyone's case is a little bit different. It's gonna be different than ours. Have I made an investment here that made sense?
One thing that we've found with virtual fence technology, as with a lot of the things that we do, is we have to be adaptive. We call it adaptive learning or adaptive management, however we want to look at it, because we set something up and we think it's going to work, but when we see that it doesn't work, you know, we don't want to keep doing it.
Yeah, you're going to make mistakes. It happens. You know, you get busy or they overutilize. You know, the key is just don't come back there the same time the next year and the same intensity. Just switch it up.
We want to change things in a way to make sure that we're effective in meeting those objectives.
Probably the two biggest benefits from virtual fence is pretty much the endless flexibility that you'd have, and then being able to actually adapt to what they're doing on your specific pasture.
And so what I would tell people is technology takes time.
You know, this technology is developing, it's developing rapidly. It's not going to be perfect. There's going to be things that you're going to have to learn and adapt to and problem solve with it.
And not just getting your boots on the ground and walking around and mastering your craft of grazing.
You might learn, hey, the cattle are like really pushing this boundary hard. Why? And you go over there and you look and it's like, oh, because they're following a cow path that's been there. Maybe it's a really simple solution. You just bump that boundary out a little bit, let them have that cow path. Or maybe you don't want to because they're trailing. And so maybe you bump it and don't let them have the cow path at all and push them, you know, to a new area to stop that erosion that's happening on the landscape.
But adaptive management is going to allow us to look at a situation. We need to see what we did wrong or what we could have changed to make it better, and then make that choice. Because as with everything, it's really hard to be perfect right away. There are some ancillary benefits that come from virtual fence technology that go beyond affecting grazing distribution.
Knowing where they're at is a big ancillary benefit. It's not the reason we bought that product, right? The reason we buy it is to manage them. But it is really nice to know at all times where your animals are.
You kind of get a sense for where the cattle are at in the pasture, and so you'll notice if something's like, hey, this one hasn't really moved away from this pond in a couple of days, and so something's going on. I'm gonna go over there and check it out. You might find a foot rot who brushed up and, you know, needs treated.
If you get a call from the sheriff and says you got cattle out, well, I can quickly look and say, no, those aren't mine, or yeah, okay, that is mine. We'll be there. We know right where to go to get it.
The traditional cowboy, you know, if they're reluctant on the technology, once they know that where the cows are at and they can go get them, you know, versus spending days and days upon days trying to round them up. I mean, I would say they'll be in love with the technology.
For me, one of the biggest successes is peace of mind. I can set a perimeter fence and I know that no matter how many hunters are out, if a gate gets left open, if elk or something else tears a fence down, a tree falls on a fence, I know that that virtual fence is there, and I can sleep good at night knowing that cattle are going to be where they're supposed to be.
You know, me and my former employer were in the pickup one day, and it was deer season. And we were going down the road, and we stopped and talked to some deer hunters. And they said, hey, tell us where the deer are at. And he looked at them and he said, well, I'll tell you where the deer are at if you can tell me where my cows are at. You know, but having the ability to know where they're at, yeah.
You don't know what you're getting yourself into.
You're gonna have mess ups and you're gonna learn as you go, and that's just part of it.
Have we had the challenges? Yes. Would I do it all over again with all the same challenges? Yes.
And it's going to take a little more learning, but I think that's worth it.
And I guess a lot of producers would probably see a big benefit in not having to fix fence as much.
Maybe a gate wasn't shut or something. Well, it doesn't matter if you have a virtual fence.
The important part is you've got to understand what you want to do with it before you get it.
And understand not only the potential of the technology, but the limitations thereof.
Be thoughtful in what you're doing. Plan ahead.
And I can see on that screen, you know, right where those cows are.
You get up in the morning, instead of grabbing your cell phone, you grab the computer, see what your cows are doing.
I can sleep good at night knowing that cattle are going to be where they're supposed to be.
I think I'm I think I'm out.
All right. All right.
I think you reached the end.